Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans, about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm your host, Larry Ziliaks, Director of Culinary Services here at the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run. And for today's episode, our guest is Forrest Lingenfelter. He is the Virginia State Representative for an organization called Missing in America Project. I had the privilege of attending one of their events recently, and I thought when I did that, I said, boy, I've got to get Forrest on the podcast to talk about this organization and the amazing work it does. So, Forrest, welcome.
Well, good morning, sir. Thank you.
Let's start by just giving us a little bit brief history on your background as a veteran.
Well, as a veteran, I received my invitation to join the Army on 2 May of 1969. And 20 years, 1 month, and 8 days later, I was all I wanted to be and decided that it was time to go away and do something else. I started off in quartermaster, and because the recruiter, that's what they had a filling for at that time.
Sure, that's how it works.
They said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, what can I do?
Well, you can do this because that's what we got an opening for. It really doesn't matter what you want to do.
Yeah. So anyway, my first assignment, I ended up in Belgium. With the NATO-shaped support group.
Well, that's not a bad assignment.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was wonderful, especially since I had just gotten married before going over. So my wife came over.
So it's a company assignment.
Yep. So the two of us ended up out on the Belgian economy, and if we'd have just had money, it would have been wonderful, But we were just young, broke troops, and there were some changes in the alignment of some personnel slots there within. At that time was Theater Army Support Command, and they offered me a position as a legal advisor's aide. That was the first step towards paralegal. At that time, but I became fascinated by the ability to do investigations, but I was really rather turned off of the legal side within the military. So pursuing the investigations, a couple of guys said, "Hey, Forrest, how about coming on as a counterintelligence agent?" And I said, "Really? What do they do?" He goes, "Well, they carry around briefcases and they look important." And I said, "Well, I can carry a briefcase."
Sounds like an awesome job.
There we go. So I said, "No, really, what do you guys do?" He's like, "We can't tell you." That did it. I'm in. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I got to do some assignments. I did things that nobody had ever done before, nobody had done since. So I don't know if I proved it was viable or said, just isn't going to good. And then my last 5 years, I was, when it came time for me to leave Germany for my last assignment, I called my branch and I said, look, I just want, two things. One is I want to stay in Europe, and two, I want a strategic assignment. And they said, yeah, okay, not a problem. We'll be back to you. So then they came back and they said, okay, how about Oslo, Norway? I go, oh, man. Cold, wet.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. They go, oh, you'll go? I said, yeah. They go, we'll be in touch. Then they came back and they said, okay, how about Izmir, Turkey? And I said, oh, man, hot, dirty? Yeah, okay, I'll go. They go, you'll go? I said, yeah, we'll be in touch. And then they came back and they said, okay, you've got one of two choices. You can go to the Pentagon or you can go to the Pentagon. Well, how did I know that they had moved the Pentagon to Europe? So anyway, I found myself with the Joint Special Operations Agency, which came into being as a result of the failed Iranian hostage rescue operation.
Right.
And I was with them until they phoenixed into SINCSOC, and then I was moved into a little office that didn't exist under the J3 Special Operations. And but like I said, I did my 20 and I said, that's enough.
That's enough.
I need to do something else.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then fast forward, how do you become involved and learn about and become involved with the Missing in America project?
Well, I'm a bike rider, okay, a motorcycle rider.
Okay.
Okay. And I've been with the American Legion Riders for a good many years. And through them, I heard about a burial service, a memorial service that was going to occur in Virginia Beach. And this was in 2013. And I said, I got to go. I got to be there. And so I showed up and they snatched me up to assist with some of the programming. Okay. I was the one responsible for reading the names. I'm horrible with names, but that's what they wanted me to do. And at that point, I was locked in. That was also when that was during Hurricane Sandy. So our first mission for burial at Quantico National Cemetery was a little moist, to say the least. Everything was just absolutely soaking wet. And when we finally put the cremains and the urns in the sockets in the ground, most of the time they were half filled with water by the time we got them in there.
So let's tell everybody what the organization does. So researching, locating these remains of veterans that are left unclaimed.
We are an all-volunteer 501c3 organization. No one is paid for what we do. And what we do is we go to funeral homes, mortuaries, crematoriums, coroner's offices, sheriff's offices, state hospitals, anywhere where there may be cremains. And we are looking for unclaimed cremains. And when we find those, we collect the identifying information and submit that to the VA to see if it's a veteran or the eligible dependent of a veteran entitled to interment at a national cemetery. And when we find those folks, we see to it that they receive what they've earned with honor.
Now, is there any attempt to contact relatives to see if they would prefer to have the remains in place of what you all do, or do you just take possession of them and then?
Well, there are legal issues involved in this. Okay. Now, let's say it's a funeral home, that has the unclaimed cremains. They have already made several attempts to contact the family to get them to, collect the cremains.
Sure.
And for whatever reason, they've not done it. I'll finish with the legal side, and I'll tell you a story or two. But then we also are required, we do not go back to the families. Okay. The funeral home or the mortuary, the crematorium, whoever holds the cremains, it's up to them to establish the contact, with the families or whoever it is. Okay. Then when it comes time, when we say, okay, let's go ahead and hold a service. Okay. Then what we do is we provide legal notice in newspapers. As to what's coming up and who it is that is being interned. And if there's any questions, call Forrest. Okay. So we have to go through all of that, but there are still things that occur. For example, God bless Ancestry.com. But we had a service that originated out of Williamsburg, and I don't know, maybe a year later, the director of the funeral home received a call from a gentleman in the Netherlands. And he says, I've been researching on Ancestry.com, and I think you've got my uncle. Okay. And the funeral director says, well, yeah, we did. Okay. But we ended up putting him, releasing him to the Missing in America project. Well, this guy went off. How can you just turn these my uncle's cremains over to strangers and da-da-da? And the guy's funeral director says, whoa, do this. Go onto their website. You take a look at the service that your uncle received, and then you tell me.
Yeah.
A couple of days later, the guy calls back and says, thank you very much. We could not have asked for better. Okay. And
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's better than sitting on a shelf somewhere.
Where was this guy 10 years ago?
Right. Many of these remains have been left unattended for quite some time.
Oh, yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, we just had a service here recently, okay, that you attended to on 14 July.
Yep.
Two of the veterans, okay, one was both of these two were World War I veterans. One was a wagoneer. That was his rank. And it was also his position. He drove the horses on the caissons. The other guy was a private first class in the Army. Their cremains, the first guy had passed away 55 years ago. The other guy passed away 44 years ago. Their cremains were in this funeral home's mausoleum. The information on that individual was on cards, paper cards.
Sure.
After 44 years and 55 years, the information was illegible.
Right.
Okay. Or if the card was even in existence and it had not turned to just powder.
Right.
We were unable to actually identify which cremains were which.
Right.
So what we did was we said that person is already in a mausoleum. What we will have is during our service, we will have military honors for them in memory.
Right. Okay. And then that was in addition to two actual cremains that were.
Yes, sir. That same funeral home provided to us one gentleman. He was a doctor, actually, major, who had passed away, was unclaimed, but it was from that same funeral home. He was a World War II veteran. Okay, so we had him. And then we had a more recent one provided to us by the Prince William County Sheriff's Office. Okay, and he was not a veteran during a conflict, but he was a veteran nonetheless.
Sure. And I was present and had the honor of receiving the burial flag for Major Nye.
Yes.
And that flag flies today here at the retreat.
That's wonderful.
On our American flagpole in our memorial garden.
That is wonderful. Thank you.
It's smaller than our normal flag, but everybody's like, okay, why is it smaller? And it gives us a chance to tell that story, which we love. And it will remain up probably for about 6 months. The weather here and the wind on the hill is pretty brutal. So we go through flags about every 6 months. So at that point in time, what will happen is that we will retire that flag, and then the stars from that flag will be cut out. They're used by our staging people in conjunction with another organization, and we give those stars to the warriors that stay as a memento of their stay here at the Warrior Retreat. So we'll put that flag to good use. It was such an honor to get that.
Yeah. We expect to have, optimistically speaking, I expect to have another service coming up in September or October. October is probably much better. Sir, if you show up for that one, I would love to have you being presented with another flag. We will probably have 21 or 22, personnel laid to rest with that. I think 18 are veterans and 3 are spouses.
Wow. Okay. Yes. I think I'll have our director of operations, Diane Polk, come and receive the flag.
That would be nice.
She has 2 sons that are active duty Army. I think that would mean a lot to her.
That's great.
So let's talk some numbers here.
Sure.
This is a nationwide organization.
Yep.
And we are talking about the honor memorial services and for thousands of veterans.
Yes, sir.
And I believe we've had over 900 right here in Virginia. Is that,
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. As a nationwide program, we've been in existence since 2007. Okay. And as a nationwide program, we've been to over 2,645 funeral homes, mortuaries, crematoriums, and out of what is expected to be a count of about 45,000 nationwide. And we've located 30,215 unclaimed cremains.
Wow.
Of those, we have identified 6,440 as being veterans, okay? And we've actually interned 6,066. The reason for that difference of almost 400
Right.
is that those were cremains that went back to family.
Okay.
Family stepped forward and said, oh my gosh, we didn't realize that Uncle Buck had passed away and that you had him. Please, we'll take care of him.
Good.
In Virginia, like I said, we've been active since 2011.
Right.
And we've been to 146 funeral homes, and we have located 996 unclaimed cremains. Okay, 264 of those we have actually completed a service on, and that includes 234 veterans and 30 spouses. I'm currently working on a list of 48 to see if they are eligible, and I do have 22 that are currently eligible. I just have to get the last couple for a particular funeral home, and then I can schedule with them, and we can see to that interment. Additionally, oh, by the way, you probably didn't know this, but we entered into an MOA with the National Park Service.
Oh.
And they allowed us to receive the cremains that had been abandoned at the wall, the Vietnam Memorial.
Oh, okay.
There are people that have gone to the Vietnam Memorial, and I believe their intention was that they wanted to leave these cremains with their brothers and sisters.
Sure.
So, but the National Park Service has no way of dealing with that. So when these are left and the Park Service comes through and collects them, they go into a storage facility, a warehouse, and they're archived as historical artifacts. Okay, but that's as far as they can go. So when I heard about this, I contacted them, and we established this MOA. And in 2018, we laid to rest 75 unclaimed cremains, okay, at the Woodbind Cemetery. They're basically considered Manassas.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in 2019, we added 9 more for a total of 84.
And that's all of them that are currently in their inventory up until that point.
Up until that point,
Right.
yes.
And they're still receiving some.
There's still, we tell people, please don't leave cremains at the wall or the national monuments like that. I mean, it's we understand, the emotional connections and all.
Sure.
But the National Park Service has no way of dealing with that
Right.
until an organization such as ours comes in and takes care of that and gives them a honorable interment. Okay.
So how many? I was struck by on the 14th when I attended the service. There was a very large group of primarily veterans there that were there to honor these veterans in this memorial service. We had a number of riders, different clubs were there.
31.
Wow. And there was veterans who brought looked like their Corvette club.
That's right. The Corvette Club was there. Yes,
Yeah. I was there with a number of my associates at the American Legion post that I belong to here in Haymarket. Yeah, I was really pleased to see the turnout. I didn't think it was going to be that large. But was that typical of the number of...
I wouldn't... We usually do have a pretty good sized turnout, at least 50, if not 60 people. Okay. But there are times when we've had fewer. Okay. But I've been able to establish contact with other organizations such as the Daughters of the American Revolution. And these ladies will show up. Okay. And they will come up and they're all dressed up and they're all, we even have, I asked that Patriot Guard come out and stand flag line.
Yeah.
So we get that participation. We do a full service.
Yeah, it was really impressive.
The only thing that I have difficulty in obtaining is a firing party. For the military, their focus on firing parties now is Arlington.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where they provide it. Otherwise, they say they don't have the resources available.
Sure.
So I then look for the American Legions or the VFWs, and many of those are stretched thin if they have a program left anymore.
Yeah.
I did have one, and I was just going to tell you the date. It was in May. We had an internment service, okay, for a Marine veteran and his wife in Culpeper.
Oh.
And the Culpeper, I believe it was the VFW.
Right.
Okay. They brought out their firing party.
Wow.
And it was just a full service. It was very, very good.
Well, we were recently down there and just sort of stumbled on that cemetery, and it is beautiful down there.
Culpeper?
Yeah, I had never been down there. I didn't even really know that it was there until we were just driving around, and it was just stunning.
There's two parts to it. One is the old historic area, and then there's the newer area addition.
Yeah, and there were what I found fascinating was the number of unmarked graves.
Yeah,
that had been relocated from other places during the Civil War. It was really, really something to see. You know, I encourage people to really visit these national cemeteries and see how beautiful they are and what goes on there and the ceremonies that go on there to honor veterans when they pass. It's really something.
One of the things that we do with the Missing in America Project in Virginia is I provide a tour. I have another person that also helps me out, but we provide a tour of Quantico National Cemetery, and we call it a MEAP experience. And this is all coordinated through the Prince William County's Office of Tourism. And we have tour buses that come in from all over the place, you know, student groups, senior groups, just all over the place. And what we do is we take them on a tour of the cemetery, show it off, and explain to them the Missing in America Project. And we have one section that we stop at, which is section 22, which is where the vast majority of our people that have been interred at Quantico are located. And we have them post flags, okay, on those veterans' graves.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it has a tendency, it gets the story out more, gets people understanding that, okay, and gets them to thinking.
I sort of think here about the process. If I'm understanding it correctly, you will visit a funeral home, and the director will say, well, we have 10 unclaimed remains, and you get all the information and then submit that to the VA, and the VA would come back and say, okay, this one, and that one are veterans. The rest we have no record of. Is that pretty much how it goes? Or?
Yeah, well, that's a way of looking at it. Yeah. It has elements. When we go to a funeral home and we identify ourselves and we explain what's going on, 99 times out of 100, they'll say, this is nice. Thank you very much, but we don't have anyone. So then a couple of weeks later, we'll go back. Oh, remember me? Oh, yeah. Well, has there been any changes? We're still looking to try and work with you guys towards the honorable interment of veterans. And they go, yeah, but no, we don't have anybody. We may do this 3, 4, 5 times until you've built up a rapport and a level of trust with that funeral home. And then they'll go, well, we do have this back room back here where we have unclaimed cremains, for whatever reason, the families have not, or maybe there was never a family member to sign off on the death certificate to begin with. May I tell you a story?
Sure.
Okay. I got a phone call from Navy Honors, and the gentleman says, Forrest, we have a gentleman out in Norfolk who tells me that he's got the cremains of his neighbor who was a veteran, and he wants us to take care of that. He says, oh, by the way, he found out that this veteran's spouse had passed away at a nursing home. And so we'd like to take care of that too. And I said, absolutely, I'll go out there. And I went out and I met with a gentleman and I said, what happened? And he goes, well, he says, Delphin and his wife, Benedicta, were originally from the Philippines. They had survived World War II in the Philippines. And of course, the Philippines at the end of World War II was just in shambles.
Sure.
So the Navy had changed its policy at that time to allow some non-U.S. personnel to enter service on Navy ships. So Delphin did that. He signed up on the Navy and became a mess steward. He spent 25 years in the Navy as a mess steward.
Wow.
He retired as an E5, an MS2. Okay. Can you imagine 25 years and he made it to an E5? Wow. But he had that. And his wife, Benedicta, had been with him. And they had lived in the same general area there in Norfolk for 35, 40 years. So in 2009, Delphin passed away. His wife, Benedicta, could not bear to part with the cremains. So she took the cremains and she set it up on her shelf. Then in 2019, Benedicta required nursing care, constant nursing care. So she took out a reverse mortgage on her home to pay for this nursing care.
Right.
And then in 2021, she passed away. So the payments to the mortgage holder stopped. So the neighbor is going home one evening, and here's these guys taking all this stuff out of this home and putting it into this truck. And he goes, what are you doing? And he goes, well, we're with the mortgage company, and it's gone into default. So we're, foreclosing on everything. And he goes, well, wait a minute. He says, there's cremains in that house. And the guy says, I know. We were about to throw those in the trash.
Oh, my God.
And he goes, no. Give them to me, and I'll take care of them. So, okay. He took care of those, contacted Navy Honors. Navy Honors got a hold of me. And I even went over and I established contact with a nursing home to get Benedicta's cremains. The manager there says, oh, my God. He says, Forrest, this is terrific. We really do appreciate you doing this. This is a wonderful thing. Can you do any more? Okay. How many are you talking about? He gave me a list of 120 unclaimed cremains.
Ooh.
People that had gone into the nursing home. Families had basically just said their goodbyes, and then that was it. We are finishing up on that list right now, okay, so that we can, that's the service that we're hoping to have in October.
Sure.
Okay. Wow. But it takes a long time to get the information, process it through the VA.
How responsive is the VA?
The VA is as responsive as
the VA can be.
Yeah. Okay. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it's quickly. I can't measure it, but I've had some take a couple of days. I've had others take 6 months.
Yeah.
You just don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
But we do not know how we're going to be receiving cremains. We got a call one time from a lady, and she says, I just want him off my damn kitchen counter. I said, pardon me? It seems that this lady had a husband. Husband had a brother. The brother passed away. The husband couldn't bear to part with the cremains, so it sat there on the kitchen counter. When the husband passed away, the wife didn't have that same attachment.
Yeah.
And she says, just please come get him, okay? I said, yes, ma'am, we will do that.
Wow.
I got a phone call from the Manassas City Police Department, and they said, Forrest, there was a U-Haul storage unit that fell into non-payment. They went in, they opened it up, and here was an urn and a DD-214, of all things.
Wow.
The urn and a DD-214. And they said, what do we do? And I said, give them to me. I'll take care of them. And we included him. That was Specialist 4, Glenn Melvin. The thing that was interesting, true about Mr. Glenn Melvin was that he was the one from that U-Haul storage unit, but the U-Haul storage unit manager was Native American, and she took a real liking or connection to this. She became connected to this. She was there, okay, when we placed Mr. Glenn Melvin's cremains into the socket in the ground. She was there, filled in the dirt, they tapped it down, and as they finished it up on that, she held her own little Native American ceremony over him. And we'd never had that before, and it was really very nice.
Wow. Yeah. That's special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of people that come to us from the Prince William County Sheriff's Office. And there's any number of reasons why that may be.
Sure.
You know, I mean, really, you can't just say, "Oh, well, they were indigent." Well, they could have been,
right?
Okay, but maybe not. We've had unclaimed cremains of a millionaire.
Yeah.
You know, so you just never know,
right?
How these things are going to go.
Wow. So what's the one thing as we kind of wrap up? What's the one thing you want people to know? The most important thing about the Missing in America project?
We are an all-volunteer organization, and yes, we can use monetary donations to help us because we have to pay for our liability insurances, and we have to, all of our publication stuff. But more importantly, we need people to come out and work with us, okay, that can actually stand to go into a funeral home and meet with the funeral staff and go, I'd like to help you out taking some of these, the veterans and eligible dependents, and have them interned at a national cemetery.
So volunteers.
Volunteers.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
We have two types of folks that help us out. One is a supporter and the other is a volunteer. The supporters show up at the events,
right.
Okay, and in that. But the volunteers have to be trained, okay, before they go into a funeral home, because they have to know what the legal implications are. And we have to ensure that they are covered under our liability insurance. They have to sign paperwork with the funeral home so the funeral home is relieved of liability responsibilities.
Sure.
And that they're aware that we abide by the Privacy Act, okay, and ensure the privacy of the information that we collect.
Okay. What's the best way for someone to get in touch with the organization if they have Uncle Bob's remains or the neighbor's remains, or that they don't want any longer and believe that they should get this sort of honor?
Well, there's a couple of ways that this can be done. We do have a website,
right?
Okay, that's www.miap.us.
Okay.
Or you can go to the Facebook page for Missing in America Project Virginia, or you can email me, and you can do that at virginia@miap.us.
Not org.
Not org, no.
US.
No, at US.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, I would encourage everybody to think about volunteering. This is an amazing organization that does just incredible work. If you, at a minimum, if you subscribe to a newsletter or periodically look at the webpage, look for these internment ceremonies that are going to be in your area and attend one. I guarantee you will be thankful that you did. It's a very moving experience, and it's really something. Go to the webpage, learn about the organization, support the organization any way you can. And Forrest, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Yeah, it's just been a lot of great information, and I really appreciate you stopping by the retreat to talk to us. For our listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll have another episode Monday morning at 5 a.m. Until then, thanks so much.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.